Athletes, Coach Blu here. Welcome to the locker room. Today we're going to talk about pain, that experience, that feeling, that emotion, that anxiety of pain. See, pain's an interesting beast when you break it down into little bite-sized chunks, because pain is an indicator that something's wrong. And I believe that we use because of pain. Now, the world according to Coach Blu here, I do believe that there's only a few reasons people use in the first place. The reasons why people get engaged into the drug and alcohol scene is to cover some kind of pain. Now, don't get me wrong. The subset is that sometimes growing up, we want to have these experiences, and so we flirt around and we test it out and we have the experience. And some of us can use that, go away, and never have a problem with it again. But many of us that struggle with some kind of pain without even realizing the intensity of it, feel that void being filled up with that experience or drug or that substance, and we're like, that's the ticket, that's where we're done. And we end up taking a knee and holding the pattern. Now, the interesting thing about pain is that it doesn't have to just be physical. It could be mental, emotional, spiritual, it could be any kind of pain. And the problem with that is, once we find the substance that knocks that out or gets us distracted enough not to care about it, we want to recreate that and emulate that over and over and over again, because no one wants to get hurt. In fact, it's kind of interesting. Next time you're at the grocery store and you walk down the pharmaceutical aisle, check and see how much extra strength Tylenol and maximum strength Bear and extreme Excedrin costs. Because really, athletes, it's the exact same stuff with different label. Pain medication, over-the-counter stuff, it all works the same way. But we live in a society now where we don't want to feel pain. We want it gone now. And so we'll spend the extra money for the extra strength or the extreme version. When you boil down the ingredients list, it's the same thing. It's a psyche type issue. Because we want our pain gone now. We don't want to wait for the extra 5 minutes. And so we'll pay the extra $12 to get the fast acting. That's all placebo, because it still takes the same amount of time. And so the interesting thing about how we understand and cope with pain is that we want to avoid it. And I don't blame us. Pain sucks, it hurts, duh. That's why we want to avoid it at all costs. But we have to understand that there's a reason for it too. I've heard many athletes that say on a long distance run, they started feeling pain in their foot or in their knee or in their shin, and they just kind of pulled themselves up and like, I'm going to do this. And they push through the pain and they finish, only to have severely injured themselves to the point where they can't race for the rest of the season. Athletes, we have to be mindful of this principle. We've got to be careful on how much we push ourselves, because pain is an indicator that something's wrong. So when we take an opiate-based medication or we're using heroin or street opiates, that's the ticket to a one-way track to hell. And what I mean by that is the pain's always going to be there. All the opiate does is cover it up and pretend like it doesn't exist. And what happens usually is that the pain actually intensifies and it grows and it gets more scary. And then we get really stuck, because then we need more and we need more frequent. And that gets this thing called tolerance built up. And then when it's all washed away and you're sitting there just vulnerable in all kinds of pain, we don't know how to cope with it. And pain, whether it's emotional, physical, or mental, or spiritual, all feels the same way. I mean, think about it, athletes. You know this to be true for the simple fact of once you eliminate the pain source, you begin to heal. And that's one thing I think we take for granted very often in the addiction recovery world, is we fail to identify the pain. And most programs and most therapists and most people in the recovery industry, they want you to feel good. And so they'll help put bandages over that, and they'll help kind of make it, feel like it's better. And the bandages will look better. The problem with that is if you don't take off the bandage and scrub the wound that was causing the pain, it's going to get infected. And in fact, it's going to be infected to the point by which you may even lose access to that limb. They may have to amputate, right? But what happens in real recovery is that someone, a coach, a therapist, a counselor, a clergy, someone is going to help you unwrap that old bandage that's now become infected and dirty. And once the wound's exposed, they're going to scrub it, and it's going to hurt, and you're going to cry, and you're going to moan, and you're going to wail. And then we're going to put new ointment on it, and we're going to bandage it up, and we're going to say, okay, come back and let's look at that tomorrow. And you come back to that therapist, that counselor, that clergy, and you say, okay, well, it still hurts, but it's feeling a little better. And what do? We unwrap it again, and we scrub it, and it hurts again. And we do that process until eventually that wound heals. Now, athletes, there's the ticket. We don't just simply recover, we heal. And when we're in there scraping out that gunk and that bad stuff, and we're removing it, we're putting fresh bandages on it, and we're keeping you moving forward, ultimately, that wound will turn to a scar. And I once heard someone say, you'll never be able to feel, good again about these things, that all these scars will always hurt. I'm going to challenge that and say, no, that's not how it works. See, as we've helped heal that wound, pretty soon when it's all said and done and the bandages are gone and you've lived a life now of being able to progress, you'll always remember to look at that scar and remember where it came from, and it will bring back the memories of the pain there. And you can sit with it for a minute. You can feel it and say, man, I remember when I got that. That really hurt. I remember how it healed. And then you'll move on with life and you'll forget about it until you look at it again. You're like, oh yeah, I remember that. See, the interesting thing about scars is they do heal and they do feel better. And they won't always hurt, but you'll always remember the pain. See, we typically use drugs and alcohol because we remember the pain. Not that we're experiencing it again, but the intensity of the memories are so profound that that's what usually sinks our ship. And so athletes, in order to move forward, we have to cope and deal and heal the pain. Once that's removed, whether it's through forgiveness, understanding, trauma therapy, whatever it could be, when that stuff is finally laid to rest and we can understand the pain and the significance of it and the problem, the source has been resolved, you can heal. That's why I'm a firm believer that in Team Addict II Athlete, we don't simply recover for the rest of our lives, that we can heal from this. Because when you're healing from this, and you're taking mental notes and you're understanding the process of pain and the recovery thereof, you can definitely help turn that mess into a very powerful message.